日本時間1月8日、米メディア、MLB ネットワークに、ドジャースのデーブ・ロバーツ監督と、タイラー・グラスノー投手が出演し、同僚の大谷翔平投手について語りました。MLB ネットワークは、この日は、翔平デーと銘打った異例の企画を実施し、大谷翔平に関する話題のみで、番組を編成し、終日放送していました。ここからは、その様子を字幕付きでご紹介します。
Doc, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, fellas. Good way for me on the West Coast to start my day talking about Shohei.
Yeah, we appreciate you getting up early to do that. And there are so many places to start with this guy. And I guess I'll jump in with this. You watched him as an opposing manager for a number of years. You got him on your side now. I know you had a high opinion of him managing against him. What's changed in how you view Shohei now that you know him as well as you do and that you've had him on your side for 2 years?
I think the thing that's changed is there's obviously with time you get to know a person more intimately. I think that I've learned his humor. I've learned his certainly we've seen the humility from the other side. But I think that his generosity across the board, there's a crazy competitiveness to win and not just to be a great player. He wants to win. And then on the last thing I'll say is on the day-to-day to see the discipline and how we can kind of prepare as he went through rehab and then also to prepare for a season or each day is pretty impressive.
Hey, Dave, he's so unique and there's so many different stories and narratives about him. And one of them is Shohei decides what Shohei wants to do. And there's some truth to that. Every player has to let you know how they feel. How do you guys manage that as a group with you, Stan, the whole group on down, Andrew, you name it, how you manage Shohei and how you handle him and what's those conversations like with him?
I think the first thing it starts, HR, is the contract. You know, his whole thing with Stan and Mark Walter was basically an ownership group was I'll defer money and I just want to be ensured that the roster is going to continue to be very competitive to win a championship every year. And that's the word that Mark, you know, the agreement that they had. And I think that's sort of where it started initially. And then outside of that, I think it's more of kind of, you know, every player wants to feel comfortable. But if we're trying to win, you know, honestly, Shohei has been my easiest player to manage. He's not really my way the highway type guy. So for me, honestly, HR, there's been no demands for me that he's put on me or the organization. I think certainly coming back from the elbow injury, kind of the rehab on the plan, which is very kind of methodical and slow, maybe slower than his liking. He still bought into that and understood the bigger picture. So I do think that once he was ready at the end of the year and pitched in the World Series and throughout the postseason, I think that trust has continued to build. But yeah, you know, right there, he didn't like me taking him out of the game, but still respectful. I don't know. You know what? I think that he does is because every minute of the day is calculated for him. So it's really, he doesn't have really time to poke holes in what the organization isn't or isn't doing. He just wants to win.
You know, I don't think it's hyperbole, Doc, to say that we're watching and you're managing the greatest player to ever put on a uniform.
Ever.
You could make that case, right? It's crazy. So as such, I would imagine one of the challenges that you and the organization are faced with is the balance between preserving him and keeping enough bubble wrap on him and putting too much bubble wrap on him. After all, like, we need this guy for the next decade in Dodger blue.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that, you know, you've got to build that trust, Maddie. And I think that it's not easy because as a player, they always feel that they can do more. They should do more. But I think that Shohei is very cognizant of his short-term performance, but also long-term legacy. And so appreciating that, you know, pushing him in April, May, or June isn't worth the squeeze. And I think that you know, his agent Nez is obviously in touch with him, but our training staff, the doctors, Andrew, Brandon Gomes, myself, Mark Pryor, the hitting guys manage his workload. All that kind of collection of voices kind of come to a decision. So I do think that the North Star, the guiding light, is being good now, certainly to help us win, but also we want to preserve his career for the next 10 years.
I mean, it's almost like a mythical character. It's unbelievable what this guy can do.
It is, and I think that what you guys said is, I'm as old school as anybody, but I do feel that he is the best player of all time to put on a baseball uniform, and I don't need to see another 5 years to validate what my eyes are, right? And so I get the longevity piece, what people want to see, but I think we've all seen enough.
Yeah. I mean, Dave, one game, he throws 100 miles an hour, strikes out 2 hitters to end it with 100-mile-an-hour pitches, and then hits the ball to the ballpark. I mean, out of the stadium.
Sick.
So that's one of the greatest moments that I've seen with Shohei through the number of years. What moments do you have that stand out immediately with you?
Yeah, but I think the thing is, just to add on that, Harold, I think that it's 100, but it's also located. It's not to the backstop. And it's also a guy that's not hitting 190 and hitting a ball at the ballpark, right? So you're getting a guy that's the talent that we all love, but the skill set to be very finite is a different deal. Yeah, I mean, you know, what he did in Miami for the 50 homers, going backside for the homer, where Skip Schumacher, I love him that he was going to go after him and not put him on base in a game that didn't matter for the Marlins at that point in time. You know, the 6 innings or whatever it was, and then the 10 punch, and then the 3 or 4 homers, whatever it was, in the closing game, clinching game against the Brewers was just ridiculous. And I think at that point in time, I think he got a little tired of hearing the noise of how he wasn't performing in the postseason. So you don't see many guys win a CS MVP for one game performance. And but what was great though about that is he's so smart that he understands that CS trophy was supplanted right in the middle of our clubhouse that next day. So that's just who he is. But yeah, like the bobblehead days when everyone goes to the bobblehead or ballpark to see him do something special and he delivers. So honestly, guys, it just doesn't. I could go on and on about, you know, in Arizona, it was 5 innings domination, and he looks at me calmly and says, "Hey, if you want, I can go another inning. I'm just saving a little bit more." And I'm like, "No, Show, we're good. The 5-inning governor." You know, take your
I got to think when he saw Yamamoto go, "Give me the ball," after throwing 9 innings, Shohei was probably saying, "Give me the ball" as well.
By the way, we're gonna have that game 4 of the NLCS against the Brewers on our air coming up later on today. Last question for you, Doc. We've just spent the last 10 or so minutes laying out the case as to why everybody, the 3 of us included, are so impressed with Shohei Ohtani. Do you have any insight as to who he's impressed by? Like, when he met Sandy Koufax for the first time, was it a franchise legend, a big league legend, somebody that he idolized in Japan? Who is the greatest player in the world awestruck by?
You know what? I think he is. I think he's awestruck by Judge. I think he is awestruck. Not awestruck. I think he is. I think Freddie Freeman is his guy, and I say that because the way Freddie posts every day, and I think that Freddie's created a culture in our, and I think that Shohei's a guy that wants to post, and you know, after 18 innings, getting on base 9 times, I gave him an out to not start the next day. He wasn't ever going to take it. He plays every game. So I think that Freddie Freeman is the guy. And I think that he's got the respect of, you know, Shohei, Sandy, obviously. He's known Sadahara O, who's a mutual friend of both of ours. So I think that he respects that. But I think the day-to-day, it's Freddie Freeman. And my last thing before I leave is watching Shohei And there was that meme or whatever, that picture of him getting water for the guys when they were on defense in the dugout, filling up the cups. And then after Yamamoto in game 4 or game 3 is loose, after we win that game on the walk-off, he bolts to left field with Roki to pick up Yamamoto for what he potentially could have done. Those are things that, for me, you guys know, when you get your best player that has that type of humility and servant leadership, my job is easy.
Wow.
And
That's good stuff.
Talk about leadership and servant humility. You know, you gave us such a professional look, Dave, but we know the clown in you. When I saw you fall running the bases at the World Series, you know we're showing this.
Oh,
You're
come on.
racing Kim.
You got to do
and
that.
Dave, what happened?
Sniper.
What happened to the stolen base king?
Dude, so I've always had a good first step, and it was there. And you'll appreciate this, HR. My initial thought was to get a lead and then cut across, because I had the bet with Haesong, and I learned it from Cecil Fielder. I was going to go first to third across the diamond and not first to third, first, second, third, right? So we had a $100 bet. And I wanted levity with the guys with the workout. So Haesong kept telling me to get a bigger lead because he was going to beat me, and it messed up my initial thought. So once I tried to cut the corner, my legs just gave out. My right hamstring seized, and then I just went straight face
What player wore you out the most?
Oh my God, Miggy Rowe. Miggy Rowe probably. Everyone was laughing. Freddie dapped me up. Mookie wasn't there to see it, which is good, but everyone was dying laughing. It didn't go exactly, it wasn't executed exactly the way I wanted to, but we got the job done. And I did pay Haesong his $100.
You did. And last thing on that, I know your son wore you out. He had to.
Oh, dude. And I'm not going to revisit some of my things that I want to take back that I've done during Major League games. And this certainly was a workout day. So my daughter, my son, it's just, they're just like, Dad, this is just, my daughter, I think, said, I'm dead, and said, bye. The young thing is like, bye. And it's just like, they were not happy with me.
I
so.
love it.
You know, you talked about being in the same clubhouse as Shohei Ohtani.
That's right. I was.
How about a guy who's currently in the clubhouse with
And
Shohei Ohtani?
did a lot more with him. He won a I didn't even make the playoffs with him, so.
Let's go ahead and welcome him in. Tyler Glasnow. How we doing, Tyler?
Good. Hanging out. Glad to be here. Thanks, guys.
No, thank you. Thanks so much for. And by the way, I should say congratulations on the nuptials.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been a big off season. A lot of rings in my off season.
Oh, all the rings, all the rings. Okay, so when we talk about we're dedicating an entire day to Shohei Ohtani. It's well deserved, right? But when you think of him as a teammate, how would you characterize him? Because we hear these little anecdotes here and there. We don't know a whole lot about Shohei. We know he's got a dog named Decoy, but shed some light.
Honestly, I think it, like in any baseball season, it's like hard to hide your true personality just because you're around people so often. And like, I honestly, like, kind of what you see is what you get. Like the way he is in media and around people, he's very similar to that in the clubhouse. He's always like a good attitude. I've never really seen him get down on himself. He doesn't have a lot to get down on, but like there's been times where he struggled and he's just been the same guy. He comes in, he's happy. I feel like he's pretty good at like separating it all. It's probably a lot, but he seems very just, I don't know, like happy-go-lucky. I've said it before too. He just always seems like he's at summer camp, and he's just always been consistent around like the team. And I think too, I guess the only thing I noticed, like when he first started to pitch and hit at the same time, the only time I could notice a little change was just in preparation of like, I think when he started pitching mentally, he was a little bit more like consumed, I'd say, like more mechanical stuff maybe as he was getting going. Like you'd see him in the weight room, like working on mechanics a little bit, but he'd do his hitting and then do some mechanical stuff and then go. But he was always just the same dude, always a good vibe, always happy. So yeah, consistent.
Tyler, I want to first thank you for doing this. It's not too many teammates who go into an interview and understand you're coming to the interview to talk about somebody else. So props to you for being the ultimate teammate for doing this for Shohei. But last block I was talking about some of the adjustments that Shohei was able to make, his velo this season, his ability to come back from another major elbow surgery and still find a way to get to the same velo. You've had your fair share of injuries. Give us some color on how tough that should be for a player while they're going 50-50 to still find a way to rehab like they need to be able to perform right away the next season.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak on that whole work. Just the hitting, the pitching, and the rehabbing, I think is what a lot of people maybe don't talk about. Like, having to do all that and then rehab. You'd see him in there and they would pencil in some time and he'd work with Thomas. He had some other people in there. He'd get his work done in the beginning. I think he's just good at like spacing his time out correctly. Like, I think a lot of guys fall into the pattern of struggling and like sitting in the cage for 2 hours and trying to fix it. I don't think he has time or like availability to do that. I think for him, I don't know what his like cage work is like just being a pitcher, but I think it's just, you find your time, you do it, you have this time for hitting, you have this time for rehab, you have this time for pitching, and then you have to move on and maybe not get too emotionally attached to like each thing. And he's pretty well known for not taking BP. I think he's just kind of, the unique thing about him is he's found his routine, and I don't think he tries to obsess too much on one thing, and he's just kind of good at rolling with whatever he's got to do. And this is from just a pitcher from the outside. I don't know his day-to-day stuff, but from what I can see, it's a consistent routine. He's got some help with the trainers, but I just think he's good at moving on. Like, if something doesn't feel right, he's like, whatever, I'm Shohei, it's fine.
Yeah, I was thinking, he hasn't changed much. That's exactly how he was in 2018. Yeah. So it's amazing to hear that he's exactly the same guy. I guess as a teammate, you all have your special craft. You look at this Dodgers pitching staff, all of you guys are so different. With Shohei, you know, you're looking at him as a pitcher first when y'all are having conversations. How much, with the language barrier, are you able to bounce things off of each other? How much are y'all able to talk approaches or be able to pick each other's brain when it comes to approaches, you know, attacking other hitters?
I've had a few moments and stuff in, like, the dugout with him, and, like, I think especially games where he's just DHing, like, he'll have some more time to talk. There's been a few things, but I think more so probably hitters and like cage work. I think you spend so much time with each other inside. There's probably a lot of back and forth there. I haven't talked to him like specifically about the routine stuff a ton. It's been a little bit, but it's more just like that general dugout talk. Like, what's up? How you doing? And like, you'll bounce whatever it is off one another. I've asked him maybe a little bit about like grips and how he lifts and stuff like that. Small questions throughout the year. But he's pretty available. I think, too, as a DH, he's not like a dude who needs to be, like, locked in at all times, too. I think DHing, like, he still very much has, like, a good personality when he's in between innings. And so I can just talk to him. He's in the dugout hanging out, talking to people. And I think the time I do talk to him, it's probably, like, in the dugout during the game. I think the rest of the time is for all that other stuff we talked about.
Tyler, Doc Dave Roberts was on the network earlier, and he said, I do feel that he is the best player of all time to put on a baseball uniform. I don't need another 5 years to validate with what my eyes already see. So what moment for you were you like, whoa, as you're sitting there watching him?
I mean, probably before he was even on the Dodgers. I just think, like, I guess I haven't, like, seen in season, I'm not looking at like a bunch of highlights and stuff, but it was hard to avoid like all the things he was doing even on the Angels. I think everyone was aware of how good he was before he signed the contract with the Dodgers. So I think early on, for me, it was like, clearly this guy's a freak. He's the best in baseball. And then I think like a specific moment with the Dodgers, I think it was one specific home run. I think it was at home last year. And I think it was like a pull side homer out of the stadium. And I was already impressed, but I think at that moment I was like, damn. And I guess another easy answer would be, it happened way before the postseason, but I think that game, the game against the Brewers, where he hit 3 home runs and struck out 10 people, that was pretty much, that would solidify it for anybody. I think if there were any doubters, I think they were all probably like shut up at that point. But there's been a lot of moments that I've just been blown away by him.
いかがでしたでしょうか。このチャンネルでは日本人メジャーリーガーなどを中心に野球情報をお届けしています。この動画が良かったら高評価、チャンネル登録をよろしくお願いいたします。今回も最後までご覧いただきありがとうございました。それではまた次の動画でお会いしましょう。